How are you doing coping with so-called new normal? I know you
Yeah,
have
the new normal is working from home, and it's much harder to work from home. Have to so many meetings, um,
uh-huh.
more meeting that I can or attend to.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But does it mean
And
more
yeah.
productivity for you?
I hope so. I have some. I cut my time traveling, and also it's much easier to meet people. So have saved my time and enjoy my life more probably.
Yeah. As you know that people have been talking a lot about this so-called new normal in the middle and in the aftermath of the pandemic. But I know that you have a different ideas, a different interpretation of what new normal means. And we like to start by talking about this.
Yeah. Actually, I think when many people talk about so-called new normal, I
Mm.
think some of them are really meaning life after COVID-19, when things return to normal and you see different kinds of life there. And other people are talking about new normal when they are thinking about, we are in the transition in this 1 or 1.5 year while COVID-19 is still outspreading. So I think we have to make sure that we have the same meaning when we talk about new normal. For me, I would like to use the word new normal only in the case that after COVID-19 has been
Okay.
controlled, which means that we have vaccine or we have medicine that can cure COVID. I'm not talking about the new normal in the transitional
I
period
see.
like this.
I see.
So I think the first thing we need to make sure that we are on the same meaning.
Yeah. It looks like you think it's too premature to talk about new normal in the middle of the pandemic, right? When things are still unclear as
That's
to how
right.
it will turn out.
Yeah, but certainly we can predict that something is likely to happen. For example, we just talked about telemeeting or working from home. I think this kind of thing will stay on because it's really convenient. It's save time, it's efficient. At the same time, it's safe. You don't need to make contact with people. So even without COVID outbreak, I think these kind of things will go on, certainly. But there are other sorts of things when people think that we might probably would like to stay in a detached house like this rather than staying in a condominium, which is probably true at this time. But there is a logic that why we live in condominium in the first place. I think we live in the center of the city where land price is really expensive. Is the reason that we can enjoy life more in some way. That's a little bit maybe a little bit counterintuitive for some people, because when we live in the downtown area, we can transit to commute to many places, to our offices, to department store, or to many other places on the BTS or on the MRT. So there are certainly some benefit of that, which you cannot enjoy if you live a little bit far away to the suburb of Bangkok. It will take you maybe 1.5 hours just to get inside the city. So I think central business district still will be an important area to live in, even after the COVID outbreak.
And do you think at this stage it's too soon to discuss life after post-COVID-19?
Well, certainly it's not too early, but we have to be very careful that with this limited information, we can just only have our best guess. Certainly, we can look at the history to understand the future. And if you look back in the history, from time to time, you may find that the history will tell you that the future will not be that much different. For example, after the big flood in the central plain of Thailand, many people, including those in the real estate sector, believed that people will get scared of living in the central plain of Thailand because they are afraid of the flood. So housing in that area would not be able to sell. The real thing is, after 1.5 years, housing in Pathum Thani and in Rangsit, in the areas that experience deep flood, can still, selling very well. So I think when we look into the future, we need to make our judgment based on a lot of assumption, and those assumptions needs to be challenged to really so that we really understand what's going on there. The problem is when we forecast the future, we have to make certain kinds of assumption. Some of the assumption might not hold in the future. The past can be some guidance, but the future certainly will bring about a lot of surprises for us.
Yeah, I see. What about the macro picture, Kun Somkiat, the economy, the trade, and the interdependence, globalization? So there have been a lot of predictions about how these macro issue would encounter new challenges.
Certainly, this part is something more easier to predict than people behavior. Certainly, now under the COVID outbreak, many countries' government have invested a lot to stimulate the economy, to protect jobs, to protect people from losing their jobs. So when we look at the data of the fiscal policy of the government, we find that many countries have spent around 10% of their GDP, including Thailand, which means that after the outbreak, there will be one really serious constraint, which is the public finance. Public finance will be in a bad shape. The Thai government now has around 45% of debt to GDP ratio, and we spend around 10% already on fiscal stimulation. So after the COVID-19 outbreak, after this year, we will have around 55% of our debt to GDP, or even higher if we are going to experience the second round or third round of the outbreak. So one thing that I can say for sure is that we will be in a very difficult situation, fiscally speaking. And household will also have a lot of problems because most of their savings are gone. Even before the outbreak, many Thai households already have difficulties making ends meet. Now that many people have lost their job, certainly it will be a very hard time financially for the household. And for company as well, I don't think anyone would be surprised if we see a lot of companies going bankrupt in the near future. Many companies are already struggling to fight in the new and fast changing environment. And after this lockdown, it's very difficult to do any business. So things would be really difficult financially and fiscally speaking.
And to see how people behave during the first phase of easing restriction, Dr. Somkiat, how do you think of the way people do? Do you think people have learned from this coronavirus and learned from social distancing measures at all? And do you think Thai people have ability to adjust to life after COVID-19?
Certainly human being, Homo sapiens, has an ability to adjust. Otherwise, we won't be surviving for this long. But I don't have the big picture yet. I think we need a systematic study of the way behavior changed after the outbreak. My own experience is that people are adjusting at least a bit. This morning, I went to have my hair cut after, I think it's 2.5 months already since my last cut. So I was really delighted to go to a barber shop this morning, have my hair cut. And I noticed that the barber shop really prepare well. They have installed some partitions to separate customers, and they have hand gel, they have a lot of things to ensure customers that they are hygienic enough to providing services. And I think that's good. So a lot of people are already adjusting to that. And people wait there just shown in this screen. People are waiting outside. They don't want to wait inside. So even though in this mid-summer heat, many people realize that we better separate ourselves from air conditioning room to be safe. So I think we are learning, and let's see what will be next.
Dr. Somkiat, of course, we have to agree that the pandemic has come as a rude awakening to everyone. especially people in Thailand. So do you think that we should take advantage of this crisis and try to come up with new ideas that would bring about changes that could not be done, I mean, under normal circumstances? For example, we have this 20-year national strategy plan, right? Is it about time that we took a serious look at this strategy and make changes, I mean, in accordance with what we have learned from this crisis?
Certainly, a small adjustment to the 20 years strategic plan is to revise it accordingly, right? That would be not a hard thing to do. But I think many people, myself included, would advocate for more, for the things that are more drastic. Get rid of all this kind of long-term planning altogether. In many countries, even 5 years planning are already out of date. And Thailand, dared enough to, to have 20 years planning. And the world is changing very quickly. We are living in a so-called VUCA world. The world is quite volatile, it's really uncertain, it's really chaotic, and really ambiguous. How come we can plan ahead 20 years? And I think this pandemic shows us that we are totally unprepared for that. Certainly, we will be better prepared next time for the next outbreak. But for don't forget that there will be a lot of surprises for us to see.
And for future of Thailand, for future generation who has to cope with the new pandemic or to live their life amidst uncertainty, what's the skill sets you'd like to recommend for new generation or even the current generation who still have a long way to go in terms of their professional life?
Many people would believe that they will require some new technical skills, IT related, for example, because during this time, IT is probably pretty much used by everyone. So many people would believe that just go for IT. On the other hand, I have a different opinion. Certainly, some technical knowledge and skills are certainly will be useful. But what would be more useful is a kind of soft skills, something like flexibility. We cannot plan ahead in advance for everything, for every contingencies. So we better prepare ourselves to be flexible enough and learn from it, learn to be resilient. After we face something that we don't expect it. The next thing to do is that once you fall down, the next thing to do is you get up quickly and adjust to the real world. So I think soft skill will be very important. Flexibility, resilience, open-mindedness will be something really important, really, really crucial indeed. If you don't have openness in your mind, it will be very difficult to adjust to this fast-changing world.
Dr. Somkiat, every crisis is a test on political leadership and on the strength or weakness of societies, right? So how do you see Thailand handle this?
I think this time we handle certain parts of the crisis pretty well. As everyone would agree, I think we have been really successful in controlling the outbreak, controlling the epidemic. So the numbers of infected people decline day by day. We are in the single digit of number of infected people now. So I think that's a great success. On the other hand, there are certain areas that I think we need to be improved next time. Most notably about targeting welfare to the poor. We have been doing that for quite some time. In the past, we try to help the poor and making certain assumptions that the poor are generally the farmers. So rather than fighting the poor, we helped farmers instead. And it turned out that that's certainly not a really good idea because there are many farmers who are not poor and many poor who are not farmers. So later on, the Thai government, a few years ago, they introduced so-called welfare card. If you hold social welfare card, you get assisted by the government. And they are building the database in the Ministry of Finance. I think they are they were on the right track, but then the database, the data compilation was not in a good shape enough when the crisis struck. So I think many people in the government were surprised. At first, they believed that there would be around probably 3 million people who need government assistance, but it turned out that it's certainly many times more than that. So I think this part is the part that we need to improve very quickly in the future.
And what do you see as the opportunity that Thailand can turn this crisis into opportunity, like to start anew? Do we still have time to do so from government sector, private sector, and professional people?
One very clear area that I would advocate for us to adapt to the new normal is the use of more IT in telemeeting. This is the one that I think gained a lot of consensus now in the private sector, but I'm not quite sure in the public sector yet. At our institution, we have calculated how much saving we have gained from using teleconference meeting tools. And the ballpark figure that we just compiled today is around 3 million baht per month for all the staffs of around 140 researchers and supporting staffs, which is quite a big number. And the saving gains are basically not arise from electricity costs and that kind of thing, but mainly derived from the savings in traveling time, opportunity cost in, you don't stuck in the traffic jam, you can do more work, you can enjoy your life more. So that's the big saving. And I think the private sector have already realized that. But when I need to go to see some senior government officials, some puyai, they still request a face-to-face meeting. So from next week on, I need to go to see some of the puyai face-to-face, and that will, make us going back. So digitization is something that we should make the best use of after the crisis. But certainly there will be some old habits that die hard that we have to fight against.
Dr. Somkiat, I'm sure that yourself as an academic and your colleagues in the academic circle see the pandemic as a very important food for thought, right? So in the aftermath of the COVID-19, if you are to do researches, what areas would interest you the most?
Certainly the area that we are talking about will be of the immediate interest to many circles, the issues of the new normal. I would like to use my crystal balls, and also I would like to borrow other people's crystal ball as well to see what kind of future we are going to have. And I think in the case of Thailand, we just need to look at the outside. As the Thai economy relies quite a lot on the outside world, we need to look at the changes in the global arena. For example, in terms of the macroeconomy of many countries, in terms of trade. For trade, I think we see some signs that there are rising protectionism. So in this new changing environment, how would we prepare to make the use of it and prevent ourselves of being harmed by the changes? I think this is one area that I have a passion to look at in the future.